Here I've got the ELZ One Play from Sonicware. It's their latest release, and I was intending on doing a short form video 10 to 15 minutes long, and the edit turned out to be 46 minutes, so I thought I'd put a little quick executive summary at the start to let you know what's in the video and what I think of it. It's a great little machine. It's got 17 synth engines in there. It took me about 3 hours to get to grips with. I went to Geneva. It took me an hour and a half to learn this side and an hour and a half to learn this side on the way back. So it's quite intuitive, but there is a lot in there. Lots of ways to produce sounds. So it reminds me a little bit of a cut down Iridium. It's not as complex as an Iridium, and there's much less modulation options on that, like you'll see in the video. It's got plenty of effects. It's got 26 different types of effects, but again, with them, you're limited on how you can actually program them. There's only, I think, up to 4 different parameters that you can change on each of the effects, but it's plenty enough to get you going with nice little sketches. So the looper is really useful, but I did find a few bugs here and there using that and the sequencer together. The sequencer has a very useful up to 128 steps long. It's a little fiddly, as you might expect, given the size of the screen, but it does do the job. Things I'd like to see implemented in future updates would be a chord mode. The keyboard's a little bit difficult to use. It's not obviously a standard piano keyboard, so a chord mode would help things along. You can get around that by using 4-note chords in unison mode, but it's not the same as just a strict chord mode. Also, in a couple of the oscillators, it'd be useful to be able to tune the oscillators directly rather than having to go into global settings. As I say, these are really sort of minor things, aren't they? What else is there? Oh yeah, my main one would be to create some patches that are a bit more normal sounding. The patches that are in here, there's 256 presets, but they're all really showing how the synth works and how good it can be, how expressive it can be, how different the sounds can be. But when you're doing a little sketch, sometimes you just need a simple pad and a simple bass, which is what I ended up making for some of my little things I've been doing. But that's a good way of actually getting to learn the synth anyway. What else have we got to say about it? No, I think that's about it. A few bugs to be ironed out, but I'm not too bothered by that. Sonicware are pretty good at ironing out the bugs. Sample Treks just had its version 3 come out, and since it got this, there's already been a release of a new firmware. So I think any of the little minor bits and bobs should be sorted out over the next couple of months. So I hope you enjoyed the video. It's 46 minutes long, so sit down, grab yourself a nice coffee, a wine, a beer, or whatever, and enjoy. Here I have the ELZ One Play, or the ELZ One Play for anyone outside the UK, from Sonicware, and it's a quirky little digital synth with loads of ways to produce tones and an interesting approach to sound design, giving it a nice little space in a market full of analog synths. It's Sonicware's latest release, and I thought it looked like an interesting little synth when it was announced last year, so I stoked up the cash for this on their Kickstarter last summer, and after a few delays, I think it was originally scheduled for October 2023, they are now shipping. So what is it? Well, it's an updated version of the ELZ one, or the ELZ one, and this one's got a 4-track looper. It's got more connectivity, inbuilt speakers, and velocity sensitive keys. And I've not played the original one, so I can't compare it, but apparently this one has nicer illuminated buttons. It's got 17 different oscillator types, including a drum sample engine, and it's got a new Corpus Strong style mode called Z-String for those modelled string type tones. Plus, it's got 27 effects, including a new shimmer reverb. And what you're listening to here is me just running through a few of the synth engines, trying to show you the difference in all the sonic capabilities that this has, from your standard analog style sawtooth, square and sines, to some much more obviously digital style waves, very much like a wavetable or like FM tones. And you can load in samples up to 5 second long for their DNA Explorer and the Psy Grinder, I think that's how you pronounce it. And then we've got a really comprehensive 4-operator FM synth with loads of control, almost like a whole synth on its own, that one. Combined with the drum machine and the Z strings, we've got an awful lot of things to explore in this. I think I'll start off by running you through the interface and how it all works. We've got three main modes. We've got memory, pattern, and loop. Memory is the various tones, the pattern is the sequencer, and the loop is the audio loops. And I could really do with renaming my loops because they're just named loop 0, 1, 2, and 3. To rename stuff, this brings us onto the menu system. So this is the menu button, up and down. Let's go into something like the clock. Source, okay, we've got various sources, auxiliary in, sync in, MIDI in, and internal. To go back through the menu, you press clear. The menu is really intuitive, and going back into those clocks, for example, I have actually tried it with MIDI and sync in. And this all seems to work fine, except trying to live record a pattern into the sequencer while using the sync input. I just couldn't get things to sync correctly. But that could have been just a little bit of a bug at the time, or the fact it was only being controlled by 8ths from the TR-606, so it wasn't that accurate perhaps. But it did sync correctly in all of the situations. These 7 buttons on the left select the various main parameter modes. So we've got the oscillator, we've got the ADSR, we've got the filter, effects, voice modes, sequencer, and then this is the main mixer. We've got the 4 looper tracks, plus an auxiliary audio in and a USB audio in, and the synth itself that's loaded up. So you could really have 7 things playing at the same time if you really wanted. I think. I've never tried it. Then the encoders below those buttons are basically for changing your parameters. So if we come back into the oscillators, we change the type of oscillator with this. And as I say, there's 17 different types. And on each of the different types, encoders A, B, C, and D do different things. And it really depends on what's on this menu down here. We can see A, B, C, and D. At the minute, we're on bit, oscillator type, and duty. So we can change the bit rate. Oscillator type, let's put it onto square. Triangle, change the duty. And on each of the oscillator types, we have different menu items there. So if we change the oscillator type to standard oscillator, we've lost the bitrate parameter. And then if we come to the custom oscillator, this has got 2 different waveforms and then a period between them from 5 cycles up to 64. Go to the next. Oscillator type, let's put that onto a sawtooth. And then detune, or undetune, I should say, the oscillators. So as I go through the menu, I'm now detuning the octave above, or undetuning the octave above. And then the same undetuning the sub. And change the level of those, turn those off. So just the main oscillator. Detune on that. Come down, turn the noise off. Oops, trying to detune it again. Add the sub. Add the octave above. Detune the octave above. And as I say, each of the oscillator types has its own menu, has its own different parameters. If we come down here now, we've got modulation, and modulation's really quite interesting on this because you don't have a modulation matrix, you have modulation depending on the type of oscillator you're using. So on this one, we have modulation types, just LFO or envelope, and we can assign that to various things, but not to lots of different things. And if we do, for example, let's go back to the standard oscillator because it's easier to see on this. We go to a pulse. Let's change the duty on that, and then let's add some modulation. So we'll add an LFO, and we'll assign that to the duty. And then let's just slow that rate down a bit. Let's just change that envelope as well. So bring the sustain up. Nice, but we've now assigned the modulation and we've got no other modulation options. So if I wanted to modulate the pitch on that, for example, I can't. So you are limited by what you're offered up in these menus. Let's try another, shall we? Let's go to something maybe more interesting. So this is the wave memory synth. Little 8-bit waves there. Nice and crunchy, that, isn't it? I love that sound. And there are waves already built into this, so. And you can have up to 50 in total. The last 20 are empty, or last 25 are empty. But you can create your own. So come to this, choose the position on the wave, then alter the magnitude. Really easy way, creating really interesting, rich harmonic tones. Let's just take the reverb off, shall we? Or at least bring it down a bit. Come to the reverb. This is the effects. We've got the mix there. Let's drop that down. And the shimmer effect. Let's drop that down as well. Or should we just turn it off completely? Let's just turn it off completely. Type off. Okay, back into the oscillator. Do a little bit more fiddling. And then we can save that, just press OK. And we can save it from the memory to the banks or from the banks to the memory. So let's save it from the memory to the banks. And let's put it into, let's see which one's empty. I think it's about number 29, is it? Yeah, the 29, OK. And now if we go to wave 29, it should be the one we've just created. There it is. So that's nice. And on this, again, we've got modulation type, LFO or envelope, but we don't get any additional modulation. Next up, there's a few interesting little things like this. So we move from one shape to another over the time that's given here. So this is a little bit like a wavetable synth, but instead of having up to 64 different waves in that you get on something like the microwaves, you've got 3, but it morphs between them. And if we change those, we should be able to have the one I've just created as well. It was number 29, wasn't it? There we go. Modulating through it. This one's like an FM tone generator, so memory. So on this one, we're on memory, so the furthest to the left on A, or counterclockwise, you can then start messing around with it. FM ratio and FM level. And you can save those. On modulation, what have we got there? Let's turn the modulation on. So we're getting a lot more things we can do with that. And we've got second modulation on this and a third modulation. So we can do much more interesting things. What can we assign that to? The FM level. Slow that down a bit. Oh, that's really nice, that lovely, crunchy, dirty little digital tone. This one morphs between two different wave shapes. Again, they're the same wave shapes we've just been looking at. So we get my number 29 back up again just to prove it. And then morph between them. So it's not mixing between them, morphing the wave shape itself. And again, you can modulate that. Modulation, LFO, but we've only got one modulation option there. This one's interesting. We use the attack, decay, and sustain release phase of the amp envelope to move or modulate between the different wave shapes again. So let's do some more interesting ones so it's more obvious. Let's increase the attack time so we can hear that happening and drop the sustain. So we should hear something now. So you can get really interesting things with this if you time it right. Next up, this is similar to the last one we've just seen, but we can change the timings between moving from A to B. So let's make that a bit longer. Bit shorter. And again, a single modulation type. Just go running through these quickly because there are 17 of them and it'll be a very long video if we went individually through them. This is a 5-second sample and you can load in your own. This is the built-in one, so explore it and then dig. Add harmony. This is adding an octave up. So obviously lots of interesting tones you can get from that. So internal storage, I do have a wave saved on the card. It's like a female vocal. Let's go back up and just play around with it a little bit. So you can get loads of harmonics from these things. Get loads of sounds from a single wave. I did make something with that actually. Let's go to memory 3. So C00, I think it was, or around here. This was it. That's using that same sample. Okay, next up we've got this one called Grinder. As I say, I think that's how you say it at the start. Well, let's change the wave on that actually. Let's go to storage, change the start time. In fact, let's have it reversed, so bring the end before the start. It's a bit like a granular synth. All sorts of madness, and it's just something to play around with till you find something you like. Got a little bit crusher in there as well. I have no idea why it's blipping there. Must be something to do with the start and the end points. Yep. So a little bit of maybe let's add some effects. Got a chorus on there already. Maybe let's add the delay. The delay parameters are down there as well. Feedback. Let's add some feedback. And then we come to the FM synth. Let's turn all those effects off, shall we? In fact, let's load one I've put in myself. I think it was this one. I've just made a really simple tone there where operator 4 is modulating operator 1. We can change the operator ratio, the level of feedback, and the detune. So if we come to number 4, which is modulator number 1, just have a little play. If you know your FM synthesis, this will all be perfectly obvious to you. If you don't, you just sort of mess around until you find something you like. Let's turn the feedback on that up. Getting much more digital and mental. Let's just drop that down a little bit more, keep it within reason. Detune it. So if you know your FM, we've got 32 different algorithms in here. So it's like having a little DX21 or something, isn't it? Inbuilt into the ELZ play. It would be nice to have just a whole set of these FM tones to give you some starting points, because just an FM bank, for example, with all basses and pads and things that you could start playing around with, use them as starting points to experiment. Otherwise, you're sort of completely on your own with something like this. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe not. Come back to the algorithms in here. Let's add some 3. But you can hear this. Very FM-y, very cool. And then next up, we've got these masked noise ones, and these are quite interesting because we've got a sine wave there, and if we unmask the noise or change the mask level down, sine becomes louder. But it's not like we're sort of reducing the level of the noise like a mixer. You just get really interesting tones out of. Reminded me like of a little analog sort of snare type thing, that. Like that a lot. Let's just put a bit of filter on there. Type 12 dB. Cool. And then we've got this sand flute, and it's got like filters in there, and you change the level of the filters. So bandpass on at the minute. Again, nice ethereal style tones. Sound a bit more release. And moving on again, we come to this, the Z string. And I did describe this as a bit like a car plus strong. Let's just add a bit of volume. We'll put some gain onto that and then open the filter. So it's a bit like something you get on plats or something. Change the attack. Be nice if that attack was longer, so that you could get sort of like brushed effects. String type. We've got a few little things that you can adjust in here. Oscillator decay. Let's make it longer. But it's not quite as manipulatable as other things I'm thinking of. A nice little addition though. So there are your main oscillators, and then we've got the drummer. This comes with some internal drum kits and patterns. The patterns are different to the patterns that we get for the synths. So let's just try and play some pattern. Let's change it from cinematic. And then we'll change the pattern. There's 100 patterns. So good for sketching stuff. If you've got a simple track, you can load your drum kits from the simple track. I've loaded a couple in here. So if I go into the card, these are all quite similar because some of them are built-in ones, but we'll go to a, I think I've got like a house kit in here somewhere. There we go. And then change it to a house style beat. EDM, let's see what that sounds like. But you get the idea. So there you have it. 17 oscillators, include the drummer, Z strings, analog style things, and loads of crazy, really digital wavetable FM tones as well. Lots in there. There's not quite as much modulation as you'd want, perhaps, but there's so much in there, you're not going to be wanting for things to do, as it were. Taking a look at a few more of these buttons across the top then. I'm not going to go into too much detail. So we've got ADSR envelope, or we can change the complexity of that. So on these, we can change the curves of the attack, decay, and release phases. We've even got one here that you can, let's just try and find it. There you go. So that's even more complex. Decay is C. Again, and decay there. Attack curve. Attack. Sort of Batman style shapes out of it. Then we move over to the filter, and the filter, we've got lots of options on that. We've got low pass 6 and 12, then we've got high pass 6 and 12, band pass, and then an EQ, high, low, and a notch. I'm not going to go into that too much. It sounds, do you want to hear it maybe? So let's, I don't know, let's put just a standard oscillator on. Let's put a sawtooth on, sawtooth. Let's go into the filter type. Put it onto a 12. Got a nice tone to it, hasn't it? And then we've got high passing. As I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but I think it's probably worth showing that there are modulation options available. So the modulation for the filter envelope, for example, turn modulation on, we'll have an envelope. And then let's come down and change the decay on that. There you go. Low pass filter. You'll notice that the modulation is not on it anymore because that modulation is for that filter type. So we've got to add it for this one. Envelope. Okay. But we've only got a single modulation option. So you can't use an envelope and an LFO on the filter, for example. Bit like the restrictions you had on the oscillators. Okay, then over to the effects. Got drive and modulation. We've got modulation. We've got delay and reverb, and then we've got the master reverb as well. We've got lots of options on there. Overdrive, fuzzers, and crushers, and the like. Down here, we've got the parameters for those, and we've only got 4 parameters for each. Maximum. If we go to something like, let's turn that off and just go down to the delay stroke reverb. If we put a delay on, BPM sync is on there. But that's it. You've just got time or the BPM sync, the feedback, and the mix. Let's go to another type. Tape delay. Don't really get many options on it, but it does the trick. But It's not a space reverb, is it? You wouldn't expect it from this. Reverse delay. You get the idea of these ping pong. And then let's turn that off and go down to the reverb master. So you can see here we've got the 4 different options, 4 different menu items. Like when we go onto the oscillators, we've got 2 options on this one. We've got 3 on that one. We've got, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on that one. So back again here, just the 4 on this for the 4 different effect types. Reverb, let's turn that on. We've got a new shimmer on this. And that's where the shimmer comes in. So let's add some shimmer. It's not the most impressive, that one. Let's put it on the arena. Don't have any options on the time of that arena reverb. Just the mix amount and the shimmer. Let's go to, whoops, type again. There's an infinity one. That's nice. Let's turn that resonance down. They're the effects. They're quite basic. There's not too much you can do with them, but they sound fine, and there's a comprehensive set of 27 different ones in there. So you've got pretty much everything you need for a little sketch pad. Maybe just come back and show you things like the cassette tape. Just nice and noisy and weird. Turn the noise off if you like. Make the tape absolutely knackered. Got a similar one for vinyl. So nice lo-fi bits and bobs you can do with this. It is very nice. Next up then, voice modes. We've got poly, we've got mono, we've got legato. Unison is interesting. We've got unison 1, unison 2, unison 3. So these are adding different voices, aren't they? So works in a slightly different way than you might expect. So if we turn them off all except the first one and then come into unison pitch, and let's change that, and let's just... That's how you produce like a dual oscillator tone, because on the oscillators themselves, you only got a single oscillator. We come down to this one, for example. Let's turn it into a sawtooth without the unison. You can't actually get intervals because you only got a single oscillator. If we did want an interval, we've got unison, turn unison 1 on. Wanted the chord, turn unison 2 on. Let's turn this one to 3, give us a minor chord. Give ourselves a minor 7th, shall we? Let's add a 7th on unison 3, so turn unison 3 on, come down, and let's put that as 10. And the unison off then, I'm coming back down to the arpeggiator, up, and down, down and up. BPM sync, let's put that on, put it on to 16ths. but you don't have too many options there. We haven't got octaves, for example. It'd be nice if that was added to D, as there's a space there to do something. Let's see if we can do Stranger Things. Well, no, because it's playing 2 at a time. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe it always does that. I'm not really playing around with the arpeggiator too much. And then we've got the tune and the level as well. It'd be nice if we had tune on the individual oscillators, especially on things like these two, for example, because as you're changing the parameters, you can put it out of tune. You can hear me going out of tune there. If you find something that you like, it'd be nice in this to be able to tune it rather than have to come out and then come into the voice mode and the tune. Just something worth noting. And then we've got the pattern, and then we've got the mixer, and we've got the looper settings as well. So that brings us over to the looper and the pattern. And this is where it gets a little bit more complex, a little bit more difficult to do if you haven't got the manual in front of you. Everything over here on the left's pretty self-explanatory, to be honest. But over here is the bit where you have most uses of the reference manual, I would say. Okay then, so the looper's got 4 tracks, and you can just record those live if you like. If I go into loop, I've recorded some bits here. Where are we? Let's go into 0, 0, 0. You can see there's 3 tracks on this. All plays it and stops it. So you can see which ones have got anything in. They're in blue. You can mute them with the mute button, so they turn purple. Oh, nothing's playing. So it records the audio from the synth engine, so it's recording all the effects as well. So it records it in the time that you play it. So if you change the tempo, it's all going to go out, obviously, because it's recorded at whatever you've played it. Because, like I say, it is an audio file. It's not a sequencer playing 4 different tracks. So let's go into a new looper. There's nothing in this. Let's try and do something with that. Let's do something about that speed. Bit. Let's listen to that. So, oops. Okay, so that's the tempo we're playing at. We've got volume and a pre-count. If we hold that there, we can put the volume up. You don't hear it till you press play. If I press play, and as I was saying, gets a bit confusing. And obviously, it's not playing anything because there's nothing in there at the minute. I need to record something. To record something, you just hit the looping track that you want to record to. Okay, so that's recorded only a single bar, and that's because I've set it to 1 bar. So if we come into here, normally that takes you to the mixer page. Press X, it gets you to the loop setting page. And So we need 2 bars, don't we? So up and down again, as we've been doing before, and we can see where we are there. We need to turn that to 2 bars. And if you look here, I've got a pre-count of 4. So let's just clear that, clear and hit it. Record again. And that's in there. So let's just stop that, shall we? Because it's very loud. So maybe let's put a drum on top of that, shall we? So let's load the drum in. We're in memory, so if we push up and down, we're loading different tones, and I've got nothing in this one. Just the initial patch. So let's go into the oscillator type. We'll go to drums. What have we got here? Have we got drum kits? I'm going to load one in. I've put in myself from the memory card. So to see what a dubstep one sounds like, and C is the pattern. Let's go into like a, well, let's have a listen to that. Play the pattern. Three, 4. No, I don't like that one. And this is where the timings and stuff are always a bit weird to me. If you press function and pattern, when you press all, it'll start playing the pattern. Bit too mad. Let's look for a drum and bass one. Something like that. That'll do. So function and pattern, and then when I press all, it'll play the pattern. Although it's not playing it from the very start. There we go. And I have found that sometimes it plays from the start, sometimes it doesn't, and I don't know why. So stop recording there, press it again. I'm overdubbing, and what I've done wrong there is that I've not set the loop length. So we come back into here, let's go to the loop length there, let's do it as 1 bar. We only need 1 bar of that, don't we? So let's go to here, 1 bar, let's clear that, function and pattern again, and then let's press record. And you'll notice when I did that, we couldn't hear what was coming out of one, and I'm not sure why that is. So when you're recording the pattern, you can't hear the rest of the loop. But pretty simple so far, isn't it? Let's add a little, I don't know, some pad over the top of that. So let's change the tone. That's quite nice. Maybe just do that, something like that. Let's play it and see what happens. Okay, that was 4 bars long, so let's make sure that's on 4 bars. We've got the pre-count on, let's put the pre-count back on the volume on there. 2, 3, 4. And it's that simple, really. That's it. Done. You can have up to 70 seconds on each of the loops. So the bar amounts there will change depending on your tempo and how many seconds that's going to take. So for jotting little ideas like that down, it's really simple, really easy to use. The thing I've had most complications with is the pattern, and I'm not sure why, really. Go to pattern. That's what we've got in the pattern at the minute. Let's take a look at what it is. So we hit this, there's the pattern. Let's put a new one in. So as we're on pattern, as we go through the plus and minus keys, we're going through the various patterns. 16 looks empty. Let's just do something really simple like this. So on the pattern, I should be able to just play that live. If you press pattern, got nothing in there. So let's have a listen to the click. So to arm it for recording, press X, and now it's armed. And if we just start typing stuff in here, we actually just do it as a step. There we go, and then we can move through the steps. Don't know what that's going to sound like. Let's have a listen. Unarm it. Let's take that last one off. Let's hit it again. Arm it. Record that off. So if we play that all together, so function and pattern, then when we press all. Now it didn't play the first note, did it? Let's try that again. Did that It wasn't quite what I was trying to play, but it doesn't really matter for the purposes of demonstration. If you press clear and pattern, we get rid of it. Let's try now and record that live, shall we? So if we just play. As soon as I press X, we're in record mode. So if I try and play live, I'm only going to play every other note because I'm turning that note on and off on that step. So let's not do that. Let's just try and record it live. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is a little bug that keeps on happening to me. If I play on the first note, it lingers, just latches on. Turn that off, it'll be okay now. I'll play it back. But it does linger a bit. It doesn't. There's a few little oddities with this, and occasionally I've thought it's not working properly. Turned it off and on again, and it's working fine. So press function and pattern, and now it'll all start together. Well, it didn't quite, did it? Function and pattern. Now it did. If we press this, it'll start recording it. But I just want to check it's only going to record 1 bar. It's on 8 bars at the minute. Let's drop that down. Let's do 2 bars actually. And I'll add some delays. Make it sound a bit nicer. So delay. Let's hear what this sounds like on dotted 8. Quite nice. Okay. So let's function and pattern. When I press 4 now. When I press 4, it starts. So it should start recording. But there was a little lag, wasn't there? Let's have a listen to that. Yeah, it's not. So clear that. Let's try it again. Go back into pattern to make sure with the start of the bar. Function and pattern. Press 4. And that time it worked. So yeah, a few little oddities here and there when I'm being using the sequencer. As you've just seen, I might be doing something wrong. I might not be resetting it to the exact start or something. I don't know. But it's the bit that's taken me longest to understand and get used to. But, oh, and press pattern, not all. Press all. And if we come down here, we've got various options on the sequencer as well. So we can move through the steps and the notes using this and this, using tie and A, or we can just hit the note and it takes you down to it. As I say, if we're in step record, so if we, or in record mode, press X, patterns red, turn it on and off, and then we can move through the steps if we want. If we press auto step on, yeah, let's get rid of all those. That was the easiest way to do that, if I could hit 1 note at a time. Let's just save that pattern. So go into pattern, save the pattern, pattern 16, save, okay. If I wanted to change the name on that, I would go into the menu, I'd go into pattern, okay, go to pattern 16, that I'm on already, okay, rename, okay, and then do that. Okay, and if I come back out of there then, clear, pattern 16 is Quatten 16. So come back into the pattern to look at it. Let's just save this loop as well, because it wasn't that bad, was it? I'm going to save the loop, save, okay, okay. And what you've got to make sure when you're saving something is that you're saving the loop and not the pattern. If you're trying to save the pattern and you're looking at the tone, you've saved the tone, not the pattern. If you want to save the loop and you're looking at the pattern, you've saved the pattern, not the loop. I've done that a couple of times. So yeah, a quick run through. I don't know how long this video is going to end up being once I've edited it. There's an awful lot in there. It did take me about 3 hours, I think, in total, really, to get to understand it. I took a flight out to Geneva. I understood the left-hand side in that flight, and on the flight back, began to get to grips with the right-hand side, although there was occasions where I did have to refer to the manual for things like function and pattern to start playing it all. For example, these flash yellow when you're overdubbing, and things like what's going on this, where are we? Let's go out of the menu. On this page here, so the loops, the timing of the loops, record trigger modes and stuff like that. But other than that, really simple. There are a few little bugs in it still, and as I say, when you're doing a review, that can be a little bit frustrating because you think you've found an oddity in it, and it's not an oddity, and you try and repeat it, and then you can't repeat it. So it takes a bit of time actually to do a review when something has a few bugs in it, because you don't want to misrepresent what it is. So what is it? It's a really nice little synth. The synth engines are great. They're quite limited in what they do in themselves, but there's so many of them, it means there's an awful lot in here. It takes, I think it's 6 AA batteries. As I say, I sat there on a flight and the flight just disappeared. It was the quickest flight ever because I did enjoy myself playing with it. But hopefully there will be a few more updates to smooth out a few of the little niggles in it. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, please think about subscribing, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. I do things like buy stuff like this to demo for you, so I do need some sort of income from somebody somewhere in order to be able to do that, and luckily I've got some lovely patrons that do help out, so if you could join that would be really useful, or take a look at my Starsky Car website and buy some little bits and bobs. It would help, or if there's stuff that you'd like me to put up there, do let me know in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time.